So this was a very exciting weekend for Godzilla fans because, of course, as you probably listened to in my last video, there was a lot of news released at Tokyo Comic-Con about the designs of the monsters in Godzilla King of the Monsters, including Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. And I talked a little bit briefly about their designs in the last video, but I wanted to dedicate an individual video to each monster to talk about their design a bit, because for many of these monsters, this is the first time we're seeing any type of Americanized version of them. Obviously, we've seen a couple different types of Americanized Godzillas. Now we're getting to see other classic kaiju being depicted as well. And of course, for my first video, I wanted to dedicate this to talking about Mothra, whose design has been probably the most controversial up until this point. So the first image that we were introduced to was a piece of concept art, which I will display for you guys. And it was an image that shows Mothra in all her grandioseness. You can see her wings very clearly, but you can really barely make out her body. Her body seems very small in conjunction with her wings, but in this image you see that there is a lot of emphasis drawn to the eye spots on her wings, and there's been some speculation and some conversation about those eye spots actually being Godzilla's eyes, and she, obviously, in many moth species, she uses these eye spots to ward away predators or to even strike fear into her opponents. So I think this is probably going to be a very clever use of her design, because it's going to give her a very natural ability. Now, if we look at the SH Monster Arts figure of Mothra, which we saw on display at Tokyo Comic-Con, we get to see her body a little bit more up close. As you get to see in this picture, we see that her forelegs and her hind legs are actually pretty long, and her forelegs look like they are kind of like grappling legs. They almost look like legs you would see on a praying mantis, and a lot of people have made reference to her legs seeming similar to the Muto legs that we saw in the first Godzilla film back in 2014. I honestly think that they look a little bit more insectoid than the Muto legs that we saw. However, I will say that as much as I was a little bit hesitant to accept this design at first, because it looks a lot different than what I'm used to Mothra looking like, it's starting to grow on me, because I'm understanding that this adaptation of Mothra is supposed to kind of portray her as being like this natural titan of the earth, like she has evolved to look like this over a long period of time, whereas previous renditions of Mothra have been, well, she's genetically engineered from an ancient civilization, or she is very consistent in this like phoenix death type of cycle, so her image rarely changes. Or we're introduced to like the Mothra trilogy of Mothras, which they evolve considerably based on what type of energy that they're exposed to, or what type of power that they need to develop. This Mothra looks like that it has evolved to look a lot more agile and intimidating, because obviously it needs to be able to stand up and be a formidable foe against other predators or like other monsters in general. So it suggests, based on her eye spots on her wings, that she has evolved over time along with Godzilla, and knowing that Godzilla is the alpha predator on Earth, her having his eyes on her wings also makes her, you could say, a type of alpha predator, because she's able to seem that imposing. And a lot of fans were very hesitant to accept this Mothra design, because they think that her body looks too small, that her legs are too large. But truth be told, if she's been evolving over time, and if her legs are becoming a little bit more anthropomorphic, then it's safe to say that this is her adapting to her surroundings and in improving herself so she can continue to survive. And I actually had a friend, my friend Sean, sent me a piece of concept art from the original Mothra, and it almost seems like, based on this concept art, that the director or the producers and everybody behind this film, they were probably looking at this concept art and kind of piecing it together, like, well, what can we do with this new Mothra to make her seem similar to ideas that her creators had 50 years ago or so. So I think that, I mean, I really like this design a lot. I like the colors of the wings. I think she looks like more of like a battle Mothra. And I think despite this new intimidating look, I don't think that takes away from the fact that she is a very benevolent creature. You can tell, like, in her face that she seems very kind yet intelligent, but still is capable of striking fear into her foes or to humans, which is why she was probably worshipped. So we already get the idea that one of Mothra's primary abilities is her bioluminescence. So we'll see how that is represented in the film. We kind of see it in the trailer, but based on this figure design, I can't really make any specific determination on her abilities, although I will say I think that she's probably going to be very fast. That's the vibe that I'm getting. Because of her sleek design, the narrowness of her wings, I'm thinking that she's going to be able to be very maneuverable compared to other kaiju like Godzilla, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. Now, last but not least, to all of the people who are expressing their concern about this figure and why it maybe looks a bit disproportionate, keep in mind this is a figure of the actual creature in the film. We, on many different situations, have seen that the action figures, or like the sculpted figures, they don't always look exactly like the final product in the films. It was also said that these are not the final products, not the final images, so I think it's safe to say that the monsters are going to look a little bit more different, and of course larger than life in these films. But anyway, thank you for taking the time to listen to my video. Please subscribe to my channel and share your thoughts on what you think about the Mothra design, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.